Hey, good evening. It's Wednesday, April 5th, and welcome to my channel, Everyday Talk 24/7. And we've been going through, following the events of Easter week, trying to get just a feel for what was going on, because the Gospels give a tremendous amount of their time and their story to this last week of Christ on earth. So much is packed in here. We talked about that yesterday. And now Wednesday comes. Tomorrow is the last Passover, the Lord's Supper. Jesus is betrayed. But this Wednesday, it's a huge day because we see the shift occurring from the joy that was on Sunday. People are erupting in praise and happiness, and the King has come, and the Romans are going to be thrown off, and we're going to be restored, or whatever they're thinking. And then Monday, Jesus goes into the temple, cleans house, throws everybody out, the money changers out, gets rid of them, tosses them aside, says this is not going to be anymore a house of robbers, but it's a house of prayer. And then Tuesday, you'll recall what you talked about yesterday, he begins to attack the religious establishment. Those leaders who are interested in money, power, greed, and not caring for the people at all. And he exposes them. And remember the underlying mood here, we've got several things happening with the people who are seeing this, who are living this. We've got the disciples who love Jesus, but are trying to figure out, okay, we had a coronation on Sunday, but this doesn't seem like a coronation. All he's doing is attacking the establishment. We've got the crowds who are loving the miracles that he's doing. They're loving how he is putting down the establishment types and the religious leaders. And then you have those religious leaders who have one thing in mind. They want to kill Jesus. So all these back and forth narratives that we've been reading about, where the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the teachers of the law are trying to test Jesus, they're doing it for one reason, so they can kill him. So the mood has kind of dampened. The wild expectations of Sunday have morphed into something maybe more disappointing, more sad. And earlier in the day on Wednesday, Jesus continued some of these confrontations with the rulers and the religious leaders. And then once again, he withdraws, goes back to Bethany. And Bethany he's staying at the home of Mary and Martha and Lazarus. And then they have dinner at this fellow Simon the leper, whom Jesus also healed. So it's kind of a time of reflection. And the mood is not very good, as we'll see. Let me read the portion here in Mark. I'm reading Mark's Gospel. It's recorded in several, but I'm going to read Mark's Gospel 3 through 11, and then we'll have some comments about it. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, the one that Jesus healed, a woman came in with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. And it, as we see in John's Gospel, it filtered down all the way through his body, even down to his feet. The smell must have just filled the room. However, some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been better sold for a year's wages and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly. So the joy from Sunday is totally gone. The fact that she is giving this beautiful gift of anointment to this king that they were proclaiming on Sunday is lost. Now all they're thinking about is the cash. And they're starting to act like the religious leaders. But Jesus, he would have none of this. After they rebuked her harshly, he said, "Leave her alone," said Jesus. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you. You can help them at any time you want, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare me for my burial. I tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her." And then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted to hear this and promised to give him money. So he watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over. This is just an amazing set of events. Totally amazing to me about what's happening. We see this mess happen in front of us. Let's think about the story for a minute. Let's try and work this back through with me. The mood has become not optimistic, but focused on earthly stuff. And there's a somber mood around the table, even though Jesus had done great things for them. And then this woman, which is a very good reason to think that she's Mary, of Mary and Martha and Lazarus, her brother. She breaks this alabaster jar of expensive perfume and pours it over Christ. And this aroma fills the room. Instead of rejoicing, instead of seeing that this king has been honored, what are they doing? They're arguing about money, just like the religious leaders that they so supposedly hated. This could have been sold for more than a year's wages. This is a waste, and they rebuked her. And Jesus responds to them, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? The poor will always be here, but you will not always have me. She poured perfume on my body. She did something that was beautiful. She has done a beautiful thing to me." This is Jesus talking. And he talks about preparing him for his burial. Maybe Mary understood that, maybe she didn't. But one thing we know about Mary was the careful listener, the one who was rebuked for listening so well. And maybe she alone gets it when no one else does. Maybe she's the only one who understands the beauty of what's happening, who listened carefully to Jesus' words, who knew he was going to die for them. She opens herself up and does this beautiful sacrifice and anoints Jesus. And then Jesus responds to that and says, "I tell you the truth, that wherever the gospel is preached throughout the entire world," in other words, they're not even thinking about the gospel yet, but Jesus is telling them this is going to be preached throughout the world, and she will be remembered for this beautiful act. That's the legacy of this Wednesday. Judas goes and sadly acts just like the other disciples who were being unkind to Mary. He takes it a step further, and he uses an opportunity to betray Jesus. And we'll see that tomorrow. But don't lose the sight of this woman understanding it, this woman getting it. The men are losing hope, but this woman, Mary perhaps, listened. And she knew what Jesus was talking about. And so she gives this beautiful gift of anointing him with this oil, with this perfume. And the aroma, sweet aroma, reaches up beyond the table, all the way to heaven. In the middle of Easter week, let's grasp her faith. Let's hang on to it and be encouraged by her wonderful, beautiful gift. And we'll talk about more of this tomorrow. Thank you for being with me tonight. And we'll see you soon. Good night. Thank you so much for watching. It is such a huge encouragement.